Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the August Lunch and Learn. We are excited to have Rob Richard, who is our Senior Director of Government Relations, with us today, and he is going to share some information about the policy development process and what's happening in Wisconsin agriculture. And so with that, I'm going to toss it over to Rob.
All right, Sarah.
Yep.
So I need to do a share screen?
Yep.
Okay.
And then do desktop 2.
Desktop 2?
Yep. And then start screen.
All right. I think we are ready to go, Wendy. Is that correct?
Yep. Just start the slideshow and you should be set.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this Lunch and Learn to learn a little bit more about the policy development process. I appreciate you joining us. So what I'm going to go over today is just the basic 30,000-foot view of the policy development process and how, if you've never done this before, how you can get more active in it. As Wendy indicated, I am the Senior Director of Government Relations. I'm one of 4 members of the GR team here at the Farm Bureau that help to implement the policy that you all tell us what you want us to accomplish as your lobbyists for the organization. So just to start off in terms of what Farm Bureau is and what we mean and what we do across the state of Wisconsin. So we are the largest and we are the preeminent farm organization in the state. And we are highly respected by local, state, and federal policymakers because of our process. And that is developing well thought out public policy positions from our grassroots members, not our board. So this is grassroots up, not board going down, which some organizations do. And so this gives us tremendous credibility with lawmakers at the state level, local level, and federal level, because they know that our policy comes from individuals that are out in the countryside and those of you who farm throughout the state of Wisconsin. We are a nonpartisan organization, and we focus on sound public policy for agriculture as a whole. So when we talk about policy development for the grassroots member, I want to talk about 5 easy steps to help you succeed if you have an idea that you want to bring forward and move through our process. So I'm going to walk you through these 5 steps. And it's planning for input, write a good resolution, and then how to take action and succeed in that action. Email your resolutions in to the office here. And then give you some tips on what you can do when you meet before the annual meeting in December. Oops. So step 1, planning for input. So you come up with an idea. I say, hey, this would be a great idea for Farm Bureau policy, a good idea for Paul and Rob and Karen and Steve to go down to the Capitol or go out to DC and lobby on behalf of this idea that you want to create. So what is your first step? Like anything else in life or in business or anything else, you want to run the idea past others to see what they think. Are you on the right track or not? And so you need to talk, or I guess I would advise talking to some of your neighbors, our members, agribusiness leaders in the community. Talk to local Farm Bureau, county members, the board of directors, or the board itself. Your district board member may have some very good input, institutional knowledge behind the idea that you want to push to pass into their policy book. And then, constructive feedback will only help you decide whether to move forward or not. So I think it's definitely advantageous to have those discussions and see if your idea is warranted, if it makes sense, if there's any flaws in it, that you can maybe correct some of those flaws. So normally each year we have some hot topics that are always happening in agriculture, and we will share those with the members to give them an idea of what's happening, what they might want to think about in terms of developing policy for the Farm Bureau. We are normally asked by our state policy development committee to prepare issue backgrounders. And for instance, in 2017, the 3 that we prepared were water quality, labeling and marketing of ag products, and the Farm Bill. So these issue backgrounders help you generate discussion, maybe at your regional policy development meetings or at your county annual meeting, to discuss topics that are really kind of happening, maybe we don't have policy on. But this year is a little bit different than years past. The Policy Development Committee believed that even though there are tremendous issues happening in agriculture right now, the policy book covers them fairly well. But they wanted to hear from the grassroots members more than ever in terms of what is happening out there and get those ideas to the county level. So the focus is on your concerns and your ideas for this year. Like I mentioned, we do have some serious issues going on in agriculture, like trade, tariffs, milk prices, commodity prices. There's a lot of stuff happening in agriculture right now, a lot of concern out there. But we do have pretty sound policy on all these issues right now, whether it's at the federal level with the American Farm Bureau Federation or at the state level. Over the years, you as members have done a really good job of creating sound policy that gives the GR team the directive they need to lobby on your behalf. So this year, we're going to focus on two things. As I previously mentioned, we want to hear from the members on what's important, what's happening out in the countryside to you, to get those ideas to us through the county annual meeting. And secondly, one of the suggestions that the GR staff had to the Policy Development Committee is we wanted to clean up the book a little bit. And I'll explain what this means. You'll find that there are different phrases used in the book, like we believe or we urge, things like that. What we really want to do is get a clear sense of where you want us to go by using we either support or we don't support. You'll find that this is common in the policy book from AFBF, and it really helps us. I think just cleans up this notion that we're using all these different phrases to support or not support. So we just want to make sure that's cleaned up a little bit. And secondly, there's some policy positions where we might say we support current law, or we believe in continuing support law. Well, when was this policy implemented? Was it 10 years ago? Has law changed? So I'm going to make an effort to go through the entire book and without changing the intent or context of policy. I want to be able to help rephrase things to make it so that we're not relying on saying when we say we support current law. Well, I want to try to remove current law or better define what current law is in the book so that we all know it, we understand it, and it doesn't bring into question what some of these positions are. So that's the kind of the cleanup policy I want to do. It's going to be quite extensive. At your county annual meeting, you may have some ideas as well. But when you see the changes that the policy development committee is going to be working on in November, there's going to be a lot of small changes, and this is what this is. So I just want to make you aware of that. So how do you write a good resolution? First, I think you do some background, do some homework. Do we currently have policy in AFBF or WFBF policy books so you're not replicating an idea? Be succinct in writing a resolution. You don't need to get too wordy. You don't need to clarify what statute exactly you're referring to. That could be good as background information for us, but we just need a sense of what direction you want to go with policy so the GR team gets it. We understand where you're coming from, but then gives us the latitude in terms of trying to accomplish what we need to do without being entirely perfect with the language or something like that. So it's a general idea of where the organization should go in terms of policy. If you believe an explanation is needed, obviously make it brief and to the point. That maybe helps us with a little bit of the background or where you're coming from. So that helps us as a team in terms of understanding the policy. That doesn't need to be in the policy statement itself. And we often advise, stick to public policy. If you have any internal matters dealing with WFBF, those go directly to the board. In step 3, in taking action, the first action towards getting a resolution approved is at the county annual meeting. So those are coming up. The first one, I believe, is August 12th. The last one is scheduled around October 18th. So this is the opportunity for you to bring forward an idea or a resolution in that first process to get it approved. If discussion is warranted on your idea, be prepared to defend your resolution. Know the pros and cons. Understand not only the point of view you're trying to get across, but understand any opposing arguments and be able to counter those arguments. So make sure you do your homework on your issue. The voting members then at the annual meeting will ultimately decide if your idea will move forward as a county resolution or not. Step 4, sending in your resolutions. So you're at your county meeting, the voting delegates there say, yep, we like your idea, we're going to approve it. So that if that resolution is successful, the county will pass it on to the state office. So from every Farm Bureau county out there, all those resolutions, usually about 400, 500, 600 every year come in. And so we kind of process all that. And we do this in preparation for the State Policy Development Committee that usually meets around that first or second week in November. The State Development Committee will then decide which resolutions are recommended for the entire voting delegation. So they'll go through all these 400, 500, 600 resolutions. They'll take up and down vote in terms of what they want to move forward. A lot of resolutions that come in, they may be a repeat or something that we already have in policy. So those will likely get passed up. But if it's something new, unique, a modification to a current policy, and they believe it's warranted and makes sense, they will approve it, and then it goes to the annual meeting in December. So I want to talk a little bit about the State Policy Development Committee. Who is it? How's it formed? The makeup. So there are 9 Farm Bureau members that from each board district that make up the committee. That's the core of the committee, and they serve 1 2-year terms. It's also made up of the vice president. So that's currently Don Radke. So he serves as the chair of the Policy Development Committee. Then you also have the YFA chair, the Promotion and Education Chair, the Dairy Committee Chair, and the VFA Chair. Just so you know, the YFA Chair and the P&E Chair only serve a 1-year term. So who are the members? Just a quick look at who's on the committee right now. Maybe some people you know. So these are the members that make up the Policy Development Committee. And Paul and myself, for the most part, serve as the staff support for this committee. So step 5 in the annual meeting process. If your resolution was recommended by the PD committee at its fall meeting, again, which usually happens at first or second week in November, it will appear before the voting delegates at the annual meeting in December. If you have a resolution that's made it this far, I think it's incumbent upon you to probably talk to voting delegates especially within your district or outside the district, and try to build a coalition around your idea. Maybe it's controversial, maybe it's not. But even if it's not, you still want to make sure the voting delegates are aware of where you're coming from, what it's about, any politics behind it, things of that nature. So it's good to have that conversation ahead of time with your district and maybe outside the district to figure out if this is something that they are willing to get behind and support on the floor. I know that usually at AME there's conversations that do occur, so I definitely would encourage you to do this as well. There's an opportunity for amendments to happen. The PD committee meets on Sunday morning. Usually we start around 8 o'clock, and for about 3 or 4 hours we open up a window in which members can come in and introduce an amendment to a resolution they want, or try to reintroduce a policy that maybe was rejected by the Policy Development Committee. I'm not going to get into the weeds on this. The amendment process is a little bit lengthy, a little more in depth, but I just want to give you the idea, or the idea that there is possibility for amendments before the PD committee finalizes everything on Sunday morning before we start the business part of the meeting on Monday. With that, I'm not sure if I rolled through this way too fast, Wendy, or not, but I'll be willing to take any questions. I mean, the Policy Development Committee, or the process has been relatively the same for quite a few years now, so there's nothing dramatic that's happening. I think, just the big thing that's happening this year is, and I think what maybe surprised some people is, well, where are the issue papers? Why don't we have something like that? And again, whether it's dairy or trade or tariffs, if you already look in your policy book, we have really good policy on that. It's clear cut. It gives us direction. I guess since we do have a little bit of time, there's one issue that came up late that I probably would have written a white paper for, or an issue backgrounder for, but it came in after we were going to submit the issue backgrounders to the district coordinators to get out to the counties. But one thing that's come up that could impact farmers and farmland throughout the state is kind of a, maybe, I don't know if it's unintended or intended, but a consequence of the Foxconn project down in southeast Wisconsin. So you may have seen in the news that the village of Mount Pleasant, in trying to complete the purchase of property for the Foxconn project, they took a vote of 6-1 to try to obtain the last 2,800 acres of land that they need to complete the Foxconn land acquisition. And what's controversial about this is that they use the term or the mechanism of blight to get to eminent domain authority to take over this property. There's I believe there's 1 or 2 farms, and there's a number of residential properties down there that are holding out. They're not selling to the village. And so that the offer they've been made of 140% above market value for the property, they're rejecting. And so because this offer was rejected, the village took a vote to declare the entire area blighted, so that they can then use eminent domain authority to obtain that land. This should concern us, and here's why. Blight is defined in statutes for a reason. As common sense will tell you, it's property that's dilapidated or run down, things of that nature. Well, we're talking about property in southeast Wisconsin where you have a perfectly fine farm, you have very nice homes. And the idea that a municipal authority would declare blight on this type of property and turn it over to another private entity should worry us all. And right now, the village of Mount Pleasant is being sued in federal court, and they've been a suit's been filed in the Racine County Circuit Court as well to try to stop this. And it's all over the definition of blight and the use of blight to obtain their property. If the courts would side with the village of Mount Pleasant, then this could set a precedent where any acreage of farmland throughout the state could be deemed blight, and then they could start eminent domain authority to obtain your farm if they want to do a private development. So this should concern you. We're trying to get the word out to the policy development meetings that are happening around the state to at least discuss this. Our eminent domain policy is pretty cut and clear. Myself, Paul Zimmerman, Karen, Steve Bolt, the government relations team, we're very aware of this issue. Even if you don't develop policy on this this coming year, the GR team is very active on this issue. We know it's a concern for farmers, should be a concern for farmers, so we're watching this very closely. So I just wanted to update you on a very important issue that could affect agriculture that we didn't put in a white paper because it was a little too late. So with that, I think we have about 10 minutes left, and I'd welcome any questions that anybody has.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask those questions. In addition to what Rob said, if you're wondering what the current policy is for Wisconsin Farm Bureau, our policy book is located online, so you can go right to WFBF.com, find the policy icon, and then click on policy development, and that's where you'll be able to find the the 2018 policy book. So if you want to look something up to see if we have current policy, that is definitely where you can go to find that. And many of your districts are hosting policy development meetings within the next couple of weeks, so don't forget that if your district is one of those areas hosting a meeting, that you plan to attend those. But most importantly, your attendance at county annual meetings is so important to the policy development process, and we need all of our voices to be heard when it comes to policy. So just a few items to remember as we hit county annual meeting season here already in, I think, a couple weeks. So any questions?
Oh, was that good?
It was that good, Rob. Yes, thank you. If you don't have any questions, today, that's completely fine. But if you're watching this as a recording and you have a question, please feel free to email Rob. His email is rrichard@wfbf.com. And I'm sure he would be more than happy to answer those questions for you.
Yeah, it's when in terms of seeking input for ideas, I mentioned talking to your neighbors or other Farm Bureau members. Feel free to give Paul or I or Karen. Well, Karen's on maternity leave now, so don't call Karen or Bull. And maybe run the idea past us and just see, with the institutional knowledge we have here, we may be able to offer a little bit of guidance or input in terms of whether that idea has been addressed before or not at all or something like that. So.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Mark your calendars for the next Lunch and Learn, which will be on the first Wednesday of September. And we are going to tackle the issue of farm safety. So we hope to see you then.